All right, good morning. Welcome back. Everybody's rested up, didn't exert too much energy over the holiday weekend. Seems the market is spent. Let's take a look. It's energy. Not wasting any time getting into September, the worst month, with this gap down. All right, so let's take a look at where the futures are at. So it looked like it was going higher. Friday could have been a whatever, pre-holiday slow day, which it was, and it was a down day. No big deal. Red bar. Now that did poke up to a new closing high to have a down day. Not the ideal scenario, but you know, things happen certain ways. So the question is whether this is going to close like this, and we'll all find out together. And so this is now coming down to support. So I get a little overcooked in the short term. Ideally, it drops more at the open. Now, that won't be good intermediate term to have a retracement of this depth on the daily chart, but intraday coming down to the 50 MA. And we are looking at the future, so it's not the 50 on SPX, which is the relevant reference point as far as something subjective, not the futures. In any event, there's a pivot low down here, and somewhere in this messy bottoming action to the left, buyers should be willing to step up for an intraday bounce. Whether enough buyers can show up to turn this day around into a bottoming tail bar is yet to be seen. Oh, everybody's waiting for the further economic news, jobs report. What's the Fed going to do? And the consensus is they're going to cut. All right. So this morning, that's the 5-year. This morning, some interest rates are up. Right? You see the 5-year there. But the 13-week is just sitting here flat. And with a drop like this, you can go look at this CME watch tool, which now I think is around 85 or something percent. I think it was 90 at one point. So the majority are saying they're going to cut, and that would be a huge disappointment if they don't, and would probably accelerate any sell-off that's going to happen. But this is still lower. We'll see if it continues to move down. Now, I'm interested to see what the dollar's doing this morning. The dollar is up. The dollar is gapping up. And so one of the thoughts, I think I mentioned it at one point or another, I know I did in the newsletter. It's like, why isn't the dollar dropping with the 13-week falling like that in the anticipation of a rate cut? So this is, flying in the face of the typical intermarket relationship. As short-term interest rates fall, the dollar usually goes down, and it's been bottoming for a while. So maybe they're going to cut, maybe they're not. But clearly the dollar has been holding here for several months. You can see there on the weekly time frame, and now it's up this morning. So that's kind of adding some pressure to equities. Short, intermediate term interest rates up, and the dollar up, and so on. Let's just see where the 10-year is. Gapping up, pretty decent amount. Just been in this trading range for the longest time. All right, so NASDAQ has been weakening. We talked about this development of a head and shoulders top. And so now, what's it going to do at that pivot low? The pattern is clearly played out. And this is the beginning of the day. That bar is not done. So now we're going to see whether buyers show up or not. And on Friday, prices were down here near this support. Now, part of what we call just the factory work means, give this to a monkey and, can they follow these directions? Right? Meaning, can you look to the left and see if there's any congestion there? Yes, we can do that. Did prices fall enough to create the initial element of a void? Yes, it did. Did it start to go sideways in that area, building a new support area, creating pivots? Yes, it did. The probability is it's going to go up to some degree, not necessarily reverse the whole drop. It tried and failed. It tried and failed and tried and failed. And so as we look at, I mean, it went up a little bit. Where was it? We go back, that's overnight. I guess it was around here. I forget exactly, 22. Anyway, if you go and look at your charts, me scrolling back, but Friday was that way. The sellers just kept coming. There was attempts to go up, whether it's the S&P, whether it was the Qs, that it couldn't do it. And now there's this follow through. So do the majority really believe that they're going to cut? Why are the markets holding up? Maybe they're not. Maybe that belief is being shaken. Maybe it's just September and everybody's getting ahead of whatever selling is going to be. So we'll see how today develops. You know, our job is to do the factory work, and prices on a short-term basis have gotten a little climactic to the downside. You look to the left again, now that it's at the next level, wash, repeat, and we'll see if it can bounce around here for a while and have some type of a move to the upside, and we'll see how far it gets today. Right, there's news at 10 o'clock ISM, so keep that in mind. And the Russell, which was looking great, holding up better than the NASDAQ and tech. But down here on this, some support, starting to get a little bounce going. We'll see what that does. But, you know, it's in an uptrend. It gets the benefit of the doubt, but, you know, pretty sizable down bar. You know, sizable down bar coming below this little 3-bar consolidation versus, it's what we call an igniting one. Still not done yet, but versus this one that was moving down several days, and then you get a wide range bar into this support to the left. Okay, YM was consolidating at the top. Again, it's a little after 9 o'clock. This could become a bottoming tail bar. And if it became a bottoming tail bar, that's a buy above this little congestion, because buyers would have stepped up in a significant way. This is not significant yet, but maybe it's the start. So, you know, prices came down vertically. They continued. They couldn't go up, drop, couldn't go up at support, drop, a little climactic. Now we see if the downside momentum can begin to slow down. Go back to, I don't want to do that. Look at these internals on the daily time frame. All right. All right. Bitcoin is up a little, but last week we talked about this was a little bit of a heads up. This shouldn't be doing this, you know, as the markets were acting well as they were. But that looks lower. Now it's under the moving averages. Crude oil, you know, got backed off here. It was up there earlier when I was looking at this. Now it's backing off a bit. So, you know, volatility here, nervousness. Gold is moved up from this little buy setup that was over here, new highs. So that's short-term extended. You can see the wide range bar right there on the 60 and the retracement to this support. You know, that's likely to consolidate. Silver had a nice move, nice little setup right there. And, you know, as we look at these, it's not exactly the same, but it's similar to what we saw happening in equities. So this kind of a pattern where you get a retest and it pops up above the pivots and consolidates and you get a bottoming tail bar like that, that's a go-to pattern, you know, but patterns can fail. This one didn't. All right. Transports, let's see what they're going to do today. We don't see pre-market data with this, but you know, a little deep into the wide range bar, but consolidating. So we always look at the transports and the Russell to see if they're participating. If The S&Ps are and the Qs. A lot of times they bring up the rear. They play some catch up. They lag and then begin to outperform. And well, SMHs, you know, semiconductors, NVIDIA getting beat up. You can see the move down there and gapping down to that neckline. You can imagine that pivot low. So selling across the boards, if anything is up on the day, well, it's down. Oh, that whipped down a couple of weeks ago, then came back up. Now it's moving back down again. And if you look at software, we talked about over the last week or two about this beginning to deteriorate. And well, that was a concerning piece of information, but other things were holding up relatively well. It was about rotation. And so now that rotation seems to be, let's rotate out of everything. Uh, Financials, I want to take a peek at. Yeah, they're down, still in an uptrend. So definitely going to be interested to see financials and how they hold up today. Um, and regional banks, they're down here this morning. Everything is that's gapping down. So overall, obviously a bearish start to the day. We'll see what it does at support and how much it bounces or the lack of. All right. So S&Ps are coming to support, not down to the bottom of it yet. We'll see if you can get down to that pivot. I mean, if it does get a flush all the way down there, we'll be waiting to see if it stabilizes, because that's likely where it's going to bounce. That's a sizable gap. I mean, historically, this is a large gap. It's coming after making a new high, so we can call it an igniting type of a gap. But we're going to see what it does at this support level. All right, so it's under the 20, under give or take. Just look at the bottom of that green bar. Look at SPX. So it's down here. You see the cursor on the hourly chart. Down below there at that pivot low, there's major support level. And with a gap of that size, there should be buyers. Now, I think it's unlikely it gets down there, but one of the things that we look at when we look at SPX is, where's the largest open interest in puts and calls? And the largest open interest going out more than a month and going out like 15 days is at 6,300. So it's a whole number. It's aligned with a 50 MA. There's congestion over there. So this is a very significant level. I think it's too far for prices to get down there today. Anything's possible, right? As we all know. But I think it will deal with this level here. And if it can't bounce, of course, that opens the door to coming down there. But what we'll want to see, what I want to see is, let me just go back here, because on the call side, the largest open interest is still bullish. They're looking, going out a couple of weeks, 6,500 and 60. Well, the largest volume that is 6,400. So it's gapping down under here. I think this major support in 6,400 is where it's more likely to bump its head back and forth intraday. And if for whatever reason, maybe that ISM number comes out at 10 o'clock and it's super bullish, maybe something can move up. But, news aside, say this major support, the 6,400 is where it's going to be bouncing back and forth. So now the numbers were before. Okay, so this came down a little bit. Now it's right on 6,300. Any movement down there should be a no-brainer. So you can get underneath that. Right. I mean, so we got a big gap, and this is what happens when you get a significant move. I mean, the premiums get a ridiculous amount away from where prices are at. Of course, this one's out to come down. So remember, prices are here. As you eyeball that, it's about the middle of where the strikes are. Which way it's going to go, we'll find out. But generally, what we do intraday, I do intraday, is wait to see if it makes some spike toward one or the other, and then get the other on the other side of the extreme. How much is software influenced by AI? I would imagine, Robert, tremendously. Right? AI is all software now. What software companies aren't using it? Probably none, to different degrees. Right. So if you look at the software ETF, whether you look at this one, right, which is doesn't trade as much volume or gaps, you can see where it's at, or whether you look at this one, you can see the deterioration. So I'll post the chart of the week I showed you in there, um, about rotation on a few stocks. I'll post it. Go ahead, Dan.
Good morning. We actually had a ton of bullish trades posted over the weekend. So it's going to be one of those mornings where the majority should not hit. But if they do hit, then they're showing amazing relative strength. So then, we'll look at them one by one and decide if we're going to take it or not. Look at alarms here, like always. All right, CFG, I just had a low alarm. We're in trail mode on this. Let's see where our stop is. I think it's an early alarm. 51.75. It's my stuff. Yeah, that's showing that it gapped under it. So anything gapping under the stop, let's just use. Well, it's 5 or 30. I'll have to go through them individually, but this one I'll give 5-minute low. And the reason is because we're just in profit taking mode and only have a third left. Arms RTX had a low alarm, but our stop's under the WRB. And beautiful turn here. A beautiful multi-bar turn after breaking out of a bottoming pattern. Looks like my up alarm went off there. We'll see what it does at the open. So that's relative strength. PDM capping down. We're in trail mode on this. With a stop of 825. So we still have an open profit. But let me tell Telegram. 5-minute low or break even, whichever comes first. Arrow. We're in trail mode. That was a breakout failure. That's a bearish convulsing bar. We're in trail mode. We sold a third at the high. So that's okay. That was an early alarm. My UNH, I had an alarm go off, but then it came back. These three insurers are all beat up. This was the Buffett news of accumulation, and it's held extremely well. And then the Cousins, ELV, CNC, my up alarm on CNC went off also, but now it's pulling in, so I will reset the alarm. Right there, 22.20. See the pre-market resistance. 29. And GNRC, we have a call spread on this in the weekly options trader. We're getting a nice gap down. So we'll tighten the stop on that. May even, depending on where it opens, may even take half profit, 5-minute high. If it's gapping down $5, then yeah, let's do that. Type that. Pass alarm. This was in the weekend letter and it's gapping up. So we got to wait for a pullback on that. We actually have 3 silver trades in the letter. And then we also have GDX in the ETF letter. Typically when I turn on the news on a big gap, the news would be all over. The markets are down on blank, XYZ. Today I didn't hear him say that at all, but I read one thing that said at 3 a.m. markets started selling off because of government bonds selling off. But it can't be our government bonds because the bond market wasn't open. I don't know. That's the only thing I heard, but it's just more of information because who cares the reason? All right, no, there's that one. BHC. Oh, good, it's coming in. I just did a video on YouTube. This is in our weekend letter. And I did just a quick little video saying how beautiful that buy setup is. And I said, which I already said to you all, if it triggers, it's relative strength. Let's see, my alarm up here did go off, but so I like that it's back down. It's harder to trade when they gap over the entry when the market's weak. It's better down a little bit and then go. All right, that's all the alarms. Couple earnings here. ASO, no pattern. Neo, it's an EV stock. And this, we talked about this the other day. Wow, Alex. Remember right there, we were buying the kind of a big old bull flag. But the chart's telling me that this one's going to survive. SIG, no pattern, but uptrend. We'll see what it does in 30 minutes, maybe put spread. So here, this one's not earnings, but just deliveries. And that was an explosive breakout too, with a bullish weekly monthly. So the problem with XPEV is a deep retracement. But see what it does, see if it can turn and rebuild. Tesla also had some delivery numbers, and also I think I read in India that they're off to a bad start. But that's another deep retracement. And Verizon, it's a buy setup. It's a buy setup with a 4-bar turn. Zulu Sierra got an upgrade, 280, maybe 30-minute high. It's getting into the middle of Friday's range. But yeah, I got a huge watch list. Sale is better. Sale is better than that other one. Because look, this one's a gap breakout. So let's put sale. Oh, I got sale in the middle right there. That looks good as a gap trade. FTN today, I think, got a downgrade. Got clobbered on earnings. Just trying to stabilize. Do y'all remember last week I was talking about this thing short? And I was waiting for some type of continuation pattern. I don't know what the news is, but let's get more pre-market. And this ULCC, which is an airline, Frontier. On Friday, they announced they're going to be coming to Fort Lauderdale, my town, and they're trying to, a direct attack on Spirit Airlines, which filed bankruptcy again the second time in this year. How's that for bad management? Filed bankruptcy twice, but now this is gapping up. No trade now, but it was a great example. Some people say, "Oh, M top, let's short it," and it's like, no, this is this price action daily, weekly says it's going to be a continuation pattern high, but the gap's messing it up. This is just a big watch list here. I'll go in the remaining time. INSM, this could be a gap and crap call spread. This is an igniting breakout, and this is a rising wedge, which is strong. But now that it's gapping up $10, I would have preferred it to be gapping up $20 actually. Keep an eye on that. 30-minute low. SVM. I entered this on Friday, but this is one of these little silver companies that we have long. There's that BHC, HYMC, another gold. I bought on Friday, gapping up a little bit. FTN, I don't see where it's going to open, but it's obviously going to be down. And Microsoft's taking a beating, all the FANG stocks, and NVIDIA, and SMH, XLF, everything's down. So I'm pretty darn confident that's going to gap under Thursday's low. So I got no interest in it. AU is a gold stock, closing breakout. Hey, and that one's not gapping up much. That one could be a 5-minute high. Lift. Explosive move, greater than 100% retracement, and a buy setup. It's slopping around big time here pre-market, but I got an alarm at 1620. Chewy, another one of these examples that it looks like it's going to be a failed M top over Thursday's high for move up maybe to 44. I'll set an alarm at 4120. So it's 500. Oh, to me, I think it's going to blast through that. I would rather 490 or 480. Oh, this Pepsi we had as a put spread in the weekend letter, and Gap's messing it up. Elliott Management taking up stake. But Procter and Gamble put spread idea, Travelers put spread idea, or maybe directional. Looked at that. Fizzler, I was watching to see if it would hold, but now I'm going to delete it. A lot of housing stocks look great. So now with these housing stocks gapping down, if this recovers and takes out Friday's high, then I like it. A ton of alarms going off, so I'm pretty confident they're going to be opens, not neutral. Actually, UNH alarm. So let me look at that. Procter and Gamble hit, so the put spread. So that's a go. UNH. Wait, wait for 5-minute high on UNH. Set G. PCBI. Why did that alarm go off? I don't know. Edge, Fig. Aha, look at Fig. It was a potential bottoming pattern, but then with this green bar ignored and drifting sideways, that looks like a new short right now. You could short it right now, stop over this pre-market high if you want. CNC alarm, like UNH better. DXCM, this was a call spread, so that's good to go. It filled. Yeah, you know my general bias done on any of those excessive gaps. Just, blindfolded. Blindfolded. My bias is to fade them just because I think it's just friggin' ridiculous gaps on prior news. It's old news. Elliott did not say, I'm going to buy $4 billion worth. He said, I already did. Oh, okay, well then I'll buy it then too. At 10% higher, freaking idiots. Hey, look at IBB relative strength. Yeah, I'm looking at my 26 sectors. And this is the one rocking and rolling. Also, XLV is positive. And everything else is negative. So XLV is healthcare. So that's kind of a protectionist sector. Same with not discretionary, but staples. But XLP did, it's on major support. So, we can go dumpster diving and XLP stocks. Alcoa, this was going to be a put spread. Let's cancel that. Obvious reasons. Big old gap. Verizon alarm. Verizon buy setup looks great. Looks great. It's on its own page. I'm just a little nervous about buying it with the market here, other than a day trade's fine. But it's a nice pattern. But target 45-ish. So not a huge target. All right, so A is out. Let's see, it's not going to trigger, but that's a climb on support. I'm going to reset my alarm. 53.50. Or 53. Yeah, oh, I said those were go if you get filled. PHM. And that's still fine if it triggers a little gap down. Or GNRC. 90s. Let's just kill